Hey everyone, this is the Disjunct Diary, and this episode is for November 13th, 2019. So before I get over to the topics that I wrote down on the notebook, I'm gonna just say I have been having a pretty good day today. I have a day off, and not that long before starting this, I was recording, and it had been a little bit since I had just last recorded. It was pretty fun. I really feel like I need to get back to it because it's not necessarily like an existential crisis type thing, but I feel anxious as the days keep piling on of not doing something. Had been like about a week or two there, and it was just starting to feel kind of nerve wracking, just like letting all that time go by without doing something. But I'm back on it. It seems like I had to fix up some of my guitars just the other day. The space that I have here, I bought it, last November. So just about a year ago, we played with Sun at the Echoplex in LA, which, damn, okay, I guess this will be time for kind of like a story with that. The first time that I went to the Echoplex was in like 2013, 2012. I was still in high school, and I went to go see Autopsy and Incantation play that day. And as well as a whole bunch of other bands, it was some sort of like festival thing going on. And they had both the top level and then that bottom main stage level, like just with a bunch of different bands playing that whole night. And I went with my cousin Hector and his wife Laura. And I remember looking at that stage and going, damn, that's such a cool looking stage. It's freaking huge. Like, I really hope that one day I'll get to play on it. And last year I finally got to play on it, and I felt like, wow, it's kind of come around full circle or something. But that was the last show that we played last year. And the day after, like, I slept over, where Scott was staying at that time. And it was in Covina, at our friend Nate's place. And the day after, we went to, like, the downtown area over there. And we were walking by this pawn shop, and I see this Fender Jazz bass there. And, they had it at a decent price, it seemed like. About $330 or something like that. It's a Mexican deluxe bass. And, I thought it looked pretty cool. It was very spur of the moment. I talked them down to 300 flat. And I didn't have any tools or a flashlight or anything like that to kind of inspect it. I saw that the action was really high on it. It looked like the neck was bowed, sort of, It was like a inward bow. And I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I could just turn the truss rod, fix it, no big deal. I had it that way maybe for a few hours, I went over, got picked up, went back to my parents' house, and finally went over and got some Allen keys and tried to turn the truss rod, on the top of the headstock. And it just wasn't going. It felt like there was nothing that it was grabbing onto, and I thought it was weird. So I took a flashlight and I looked in it, and the damn thing was broken off. Somebody had tried to go in there, maybe turned it too tight or something like that, turned it a wrong way or something, and just snapped it right off. So I basically didn't use that bass for that whole time. And I have to give a big thanks to Adam Mendez. He sent me, $100 just for, out of the goodness of his heart to, help contribute towards the bass neck. And I really appreciate that a lot. He's got a freaking huge Zaster collection. Probably the biggest one I've ever seen, And I don't think anybody's probably going to be catching up to him anytime soon. And, he didn't have to do that, but it was really cool that he did. And once I moved over here to North Dakota, I shipped the body of the bass by itself. I just took that messed up neck off of it and just kind of threw it in the closet in my parents' house. And I brought just the body with me, wrapped it up in a box of clothing right in the middle so it wouldn't get damaged. Got here okay. And then I bought a neck over here online, but I had it shipped over here. And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's because it's a new neck and it was just a neck by itself. It hadn't really had any tension on it. Over these past months, it's been kind of like a project, an ongoing project. The neck has been setting in a way, to the tension that these bass strings on the, when it's strung up, it's just been slightly getting used to it as it goes along. And I think I finally got it. I got the neck, pretty good. The action's pretty good. The only problem is that I think along the 15th or 16th fret, the fret is a little bit higher than the rest of them. Not coming out higher, but just, I don't know. Not really sure what happened. It needs to just be filed. I don't know how to do it. I don't have files here. And I don't want to risk messing up the bass. So at some point I'll probably take it over to get it fixed, on that. But other than that, I think it's pretty friggin' solid now at this point. And the SG that I have, I fixed that one too over the weekend. That was in kind of a weird shape. I think whoever had it before me was kind of like messing with it without really knowing. It's like a beginner kind of guitar. And I fixed it this time around, and I think it's sounding pretty good. There's no buzzing like there was. And then on top of that, this last weekend, I got a piano. We were driving home from somewhere, I don't remember where, but Lauren and I were driving home, and on the side of the road in front of a house, we saw this piano, and there was a paper that was like taped onto where you put the sheet music, on the top of the piano, and it said free. So we circled back around, we stopped and we took a look at it, and all the keys work. None of them are dead or have a string popped or anything like that. Since then I've checked just to make sure, and everything looks pretty fine. It's out of tune, but I stayed behind there, while Lauren asked for the company that she works for. They have trucks and stuff like that, and she went back to go over and get it. And I stayed behind and kind of guarded the piano, made sure nobody came around to grab it. I don't think anybody would have, though. That thing was insanely heavy. She ended up calling her boss, and she ended up bringing another guy that was there at her job to come help us not only put it up in the company truck, but also move it into the house. And it was kind of like an adventure or something like that. It was kind of, it was a pain in the ass. Not only do we have to lift it all the way up to put it into the truck, we also had to lift it up the stairs, because the front of our house has like 5 steps on it. And man, that thing is heavy. The back of it is just, the inside where all the strings and everything are at, it's like all metal and wood. So just like the sheer amount of things inside of it just adds to the weight so much. And I'm going to try to figure out how to take off some things, maybe some wooden panels and stuff like that. Nothing that would be too difficult to put back together, but maybe when we move to California, it'll make it a little bit easier to, move the skeleton of it and then put it back together, kind of IKEA style or something. But, yeah, so I guess that's kind of like an update on shit that's been going on this week. I can finally get over to the stuff that I've written down that people have been asking. Let's see. There was one that said to talk about North Dakota a little bit. And, I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot to say, Right now it's snowing. or not literally like snow's coming down right now, but there's snow outside again. Um, it feels like the temperature dropped pretty quickly. Uh, for a while, it was like around 70, 60. Then it dropped down to like 40, 35, 30, and stuff like that for a while. And then finally, recently, this last week, it went down to like 7 degrees. At night, it gets down to maybe like -8, -4, kind of around that area. So it's not going to be too long until it gets down to -20 again. And, yeah, it's going to be pretty scary. I have to make sure to get some new shoes for work because the ones I have are all fucked up now and they're tearing apart, and I need something with a little bit more traction. If I go outside to load any of those groceries into people's cars and it's icy, I'm going to slip. I actually had an incident, I think April this year, where I went outside. It had been warm outside for a couple days, and then all of a sudden it snowed again. And because the ground was warm and, the snow was coming down, it became very icy and slippery. And I was out there, loading some stuff, and I had just finished loading some of the groceries into somebody's car. I started, walking over towards the door to get back inside, and I don't even remember how it happened. I just remember slipping, my feet just flying forward. I just remember my feet in the air, and then all of a sudden I'm just like on the floor, just on my ass, just like sitting, and man, I hit my tailbone real hard that day. I was just limping the rest of the day. I couldn't really afford to go home, so, I just kind of had to live with it, and I had a bruise back there, and, it hurt for a couple days and stuff, and, it rattled me pretty good. And, I hope that doesn't happen again at any point this year, because I'm going to be here for, a longer winter than I was last time. I got over here in January, so, that was about a month into winter or something like that. So we'll see. I guess you guys will be hearing about it if I do end up eating shit again. But, anyway, other than that, there's a lot of people out here, It seems like there's more than what it says online. Fontana has about 200,000 roughly people living there, and this place claims to have about 70, 80,000, but it seems like more than that. It does and it doesn't. Around here, I end up running into the same people in public a lot of people from work and stuff like that. That didn't happen as much over in Fontana, but at the same time, it always seems like there's other people that I never see again out here. So, I don't know. It's, maybe it just depends on, like, the area that you're in or something. Because, there's, like, small little pockets of people throughout this town. And, yeah. There isn't a whole lot of stuff to do. We've been to quite a few events just to kind of give us some things to do. Because for a long time now, for many, many years, I get pretty stir crazy when I'm just, idle in the house, and sometimes I get a little bit manic and I have to kind of step outside and do something. And that's part of the reason why, the winter time kind of scares me a little bit. Once even now, it's kind of it's not that nice to be stepping outside at right now. And especially not when it's -20. One time I have there's a post office about half a mile from where I'm living, and one time in February or March or something like that, I decided, I took a lift over there, and at that time I was kind of broke and stuff like that, so, it was like $6 just to go half a mile over to the post office, and then I had to mail something, which cost, some more money, and I was like, oh man, I don't even know if I can afford to go back, take another lift back over there. So, I decided to walk that half mile back over to my house. And I thought my ears were going to freeze off and my hands were going to get frostbitten or something. I got back here. Like, I got like tunnel vision halfway over here. Just because it was so cold, I tried to like just focus. I saw the house from a waves, from a few blocks away or something like that, and I just kept like looking at it, just like, ugh, like I have to get home. And when I got inside, I was like so cold. My hands and my ears and my nose and shit was just so cold that like they all turned purple for a while. Then they started slowly going red. It all started like peeling and it was just burning. It was like so cold that like they were just burning. It felt like my hands and my ears were on fire. And it was scary, and I don't really want to do that again. But coupled with my stir craziness and not being able to go outside, it gets a little bit difficult sometimes. And I don't want to annoy Lauren, She gets home from work. When I go to work, I get here a lot earlier than she does. I get here, at 2. She comes back like at 5:30 or 6. So she's tired and stuff, I don't want to bother her and make her have to go outside all the time. But, it's hard. It's something I kind of have to control a little bit. And, I don't know. It's just the way I've been for a long time. I guess that's something that I'll kind of cover on the song, on one of the songs that I've been working on, one of my own songs. I don't want to get too into it right now, though. I want it to be a little bit more of a surprise. So I guess I could go on to other things, If somebody else asked me, like, if I like any other YouTubers, and I'm not really, I've been kind of off of social media as far as being, like, really into it and always checking up on it. Instagram, and I don't even fucking use Facebook ever. But the thing that I do instead all the time, which honestly I'm kind of addicted to, is YouTube. So I have another account that, I kind of, like I had it first before this Never Forgiven one, that I use, to do all my watching and stuff like that, which I'm not gonna say what it is. But, for years and years now, I've watched a lot of different stuff. I like the gaming stuff a lot, actually. I don't play a lot of games anymore. I don't really have the time to play games for long stretches of hours at a time, just because of all this music stuff. I'm trying to constantly write, work on it and stuff. But what I do is I like to watch some Let's Players. Not very many, just some. And, their small blocks of time kind of give me that freedom to be able to be part of the gaming stuff without having to put a bunch of hours into it if I don't want to or I can't at that time. So, I love Game Grumps. Oh my god. Like, since I was in high school, I think I've been into them since about 2013, maybe 2012. A long time, and I got Lauren into them actually too. I just love, hearing their commentary, and more recently, within the past few years, I got into Oni Plays, because I've been a fan of Chris O'Neill and his animations for way longer than that, since I was also in high school in 2012, and the Dragon's Ball P and the Harry Potter stuff that he did, and Psychic Pebbles and all that stuff. I'm into all those Newgrounds animators. And I'm also into Angry Video Game Nerd. Happy Video Game Nerd as well, which is now Stop Skeletons from Fighting. Just all that stuff. And I don't know if there's that many people listening to this that are into that stuff, but I miss Classic Game Room. They had short little reviews about a bunch of video games. and they stopped doing videos a little while back, and I missed that channel. Wish they wouldn't have quit, but oh well. Let's see. What other YouTubers am I into? I like listening to a lot of interviews. Vlad TV, DJ Vlad or whatever, he does a lot of rapper interviews and a lot of like mogul type stuff on there. I like listening to that a lot. It's inspiring. That's the type of thing that keeps me motivated to keep doing the music stuff and learning about a lot of like the music business side of things too. If there's one thing that there's a lot of things, but if, one of the things that I like about rappers is that they're not afraid to talk about the business stuff. Often I find that a lot of rock and metal people tend to shy away from that type of thing. But I think it's a very important thing for people to get, if not into, then just knowledgeable about, and they do a really good job in covering a lot of things, and I've learned a lot over the years from watching it. Immortal Technique, always preaching independence about the, like artist independence and things like that, and not preaching in a bad way, but really being helpful to people that are trying to do things, just like me, I want to keep the thing that I do independent. I want it to all be self-owned. It's very important to me for me to own everything that I do. It's even to the point where, album covers, I can't draw, I can't paint. Lauren thankfully has been helping out with that a lot. And she took the photo for that Exit to Exist cover for me. She painted the painting for Dan, the Winterfott, which was taken from a photo that one of Daniel's friends took for him. So it's all very, like, it's not, we're not opening ourselves to getting, like some kind of like cease and desist type thing. It's even to the point where I've tried to start doing fonts for myself even, so that when I do album titles and things like that, I don't have to worry about somebody coming over to me one day and saying, hey, like, you used my shit. I want to make it all as self-owned as possible. And give power, to anybody that's willing to be part of this, Daniel. Like, I don't, we haven't made a whole lot of money doing this so far. But if it comes to the point wherever, I have money, I want to give him, after I kind of get the cost back of what it would take to do stuff, because I want to press CDs and vinyl of his and stuff, and I want to do the same thing for myself. I want to give him, after I make back whatever I put into it, I want to give him almost all of the, the profit from it, because it's his. He put that work in. And I think his music really deserves to be heard. He's a great fucking singer. He's a great songwriter too. And, that's something that, is inspired by all the rap stuff, not to be too critical of people, I wouldn't name names or anything like that, but, I've noticed that a lot of people just don't like to give help or props in this type of thing, like labels and things like that in the metal community. It sucks, they're greedy when there aren't that many, like breadcrumbs, to begin with. And if there was more help within, the scene or whatever, it would probably be at a much better point than it is now. I don't really see a whole lot of inventive or competitive type of stuff happening within this scene, and I think that's kind of damaging to it. Everybody is just not putting in that effort, because I feel like, to a lot of these people trying to make a career out of it, there isn't much of an incentive when you're just going to end up getting fucked at the end anyway. It's just my point of view. I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking deep enough into it. Maybe, I'm speaking out of ignorance or something, but if anybody has more insight into it, I'd love to hear it, for real. But, and I guess in a way this is kind of a segue into another question. Somebody, Austin, not just somebody, asked, how I got into the rap music stuff. And, it's actually been a part of me for a very long time. When I first moved back over to the U.S. from Mexico, we moved to Rialto, which is right next to Fontana. And, at that time, it was 2001, maybe? And 2000, maybe? 2001, something like that. And Eminem was really big. And my dad was playing, some of his stuff, like Stan, Without Me. My dad listened to a lot of rap at that time. Yeah, I don't know. He's told me before that he wasn't really into it back in the 80s or in the 90s when he was living in LA, which seems a little bit strange to all of a sudden kind of get into it. Not only that, but the stuff that he was playing. All the time I would listen to stuff from like DMX or West Side Connection, and I feel like that's a little bit too into it, to be like, yeah, I never liked that much. There's a song, one of the most prominent ones that he used to play all the time was The Hit by MC Pooh. And come on, that song's pretty brutal. If anybody wants to give that a chance, I fucking love that song. RBL Posse, Lesson to Be Learned. A lot of, West Coast stuff. That was, the roots of it. That's what I grew up on. And I still love that type of stuff to this day. It's probably my favorite stuff. If not West Coast stuff, just like gangster rap in general. Some of my favorite rap artists right now is Kendrick, of course. He's probably my favorite musical artist ever. But Kendrick, Scarface, fucking Mobb Deep is great. I love GZA from Wu-Tang. These guys have made some of my favorite rap albums ever. I really love, Freddie Gibbs, what he's doing too. Bandana, Freddie, Shadow of a Doubt, I think. Something like that. Pinata, of course, that's my favorite of his. There's a lot of people's. Just the very real and brutal type shit, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I just really relate to it, sometimes. And I mean, I've never really been part of that life, but it's like, you being from that area, you meet and you know people that have been part of that life, and you see for yourself as like a third person kind of view of just like how real some of that shit can get sometimes. You hear about it, and that's just one a thing that I can relate to a lot more than the anything from like the bling era, the mumble rap stuff. I mean, it could get kind of cool sometimes. I listen to some of it sometimes, but it's not really something. It's not my go-to when it comes to rap stuff. And another thing too was like funk type music. My dad played a lot of Zapp and Roger growing up, Rick James. Oh, I can't forget. I mean, of course, my dad also played a ton of fucking like Tupac, All Eyes on Me, and DJ Quick. The whole Balances and Options, that album of DJ Quick is ingrained into my musical kind of outlook. It's so good. I've been listening to it again after years, and the production is so good. He's got such a great friggin' ear for music, and, you know, like, for the ones that, haven't passed away, I would really, really love to meet some of these people. Sugar Free, stuff like that. Like, all these people are so inspiring to me. Just their musicality is on a whole nother level. And, it's always kind of like led me or driven me to kind of put some of that funk into my music, no matter what type of style I'm doing. There was a time for a while that when I was listening to a lot of metal, that's all I would listen to. And I kind of got away from the rap stuff for a while. And, I shouldn't have. I felt like it was like uncool or something like that, which is totally not true. And ever since, I got back into it and other types of music, I try not to have any kind of like guilty pleasures or whatever. I don't believe in that anymore. I'm going to like what I like, and I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about it. It's all music, and there's no reason to be ashamed about what you like. That's just me, though. I'll proudly say, whatever I like. Another big rap artist for me, he's not part of the gangsta stuff or anything like that, but his musicality too, Tyler the Creator. I've been a fan of his music for many, many years now too, and from Bastard, Goblin Wolf, I love Cherry Bomb. I know a lot of people didn't like that album, but I really, really love that album. That's one of my favorites that he's done. And, I just love his arrangements. A lot of the stuff that I've written is inspired by those cool chord changes that he does on his songs. But, anyway. Let's see if there's anything else. Well, you know what? There's a lot of segues, actually. This is kind of cool. From the rap music stuff, my writing process, which is what somebody else asked about, for lyrics and things like that, is based on rap. I was really bad at writing lyrics before I got into rap again. Like, I couldn't, it just sounded like elementary school shit, I couldn't rhyme very good. I didn't know anything about internal rhyming, just like cadences and just like the flow of how it's supposed to keep going, throughout the song. And ever since I got into rap music, getting into the lyrical dudes like Nas and stuff like that, it was like, it just like opened my mind up to so much. And whenever I write, even to this day, I write like as if I'm writing a rap, and I'll fit it into the music maybe later, maybe as I'm writing also. But I think about the rhythmic patterns a lot as I'm going along. And just trying to make it impactful, because all the people, that I've written about they've written some very impactful type of stuff in their lyrics, it's like to the point sometimes where it's like you get choked up hearing some of the stories that they some of the pictures that they paint for you in their lyrics. It's amazing, and I really love rap because of that. It's so vivid. And yeah, it's fun writing lyrics. When you figure out how to word something like that, it's like a puzzle. And when you make all the pieces fit together properly, it just feels so good to just take a step back and look at it and be like, wow, it's finished. And not only does it make sense, but I think I feel it, and I hope that anybody that would listen to it would be able to feel it as well. Because that's the thing too. I like, listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and there was an interview that he did with Henry Rollins, and he talks about one time he went to like a writing class, and the guy that was teaching the class, I forget the guy's name. I guess he was like some famous writer, but I forget. Um, he said, like, take your balls out of the equation when it comes to your writing, your ego, and you'll get way more honest writing out of it. It's like if you're not too focused on trying to make yourself look good for the sake of, being like the hero or whatever in the story. You don't have to be the hero in your story. You don't have to be this big, confident, boisterous type of person all the time. And not to say that I was writing like brag lyrics or anything like that, but at the same time, being a little bit more conscious of why you're saying these things, the reason, why you feel like people need to hear this. And like that also kind of helped me open up a lot more. Ever since then, like my lyric writing has been a lot more honest. And I thought it was great advice. And I don't know, maybe it feels like to anybody listening that likes to write lyrics or just poetry or stories or anything like that, like that's maybe that's something to keep in mind. I don't know. It's helped me a lot. So I feel like, maybe, I should pass that game down and see, if anybody could take it and use it for something. But yeah. I would hope that some more people would write in though. Not a whole lot of people wrote in this time of things to cover. It's all good though, I could probably just come up with, some things to talk about. But, like the back and forth is really cool. And I really appreciate anybody that has continued to do it. But yeah, don't be afraid, either leave a comment or, message me on Instagram. I always have the handle for that in the description of these videos. Like, I'll probably, I'll respond. I usually do, even if it's a little bit late. But, it's like I got a whole another week after this to come up with stuff regardless. So, you guys will be hearing from me again. So, yeah. Thanks for listening in on this one, and I'll talk to you guys again next week. Thank you.